Hey, thanks for clicking on this video and giving me a shot. I appreciate it very much. And so does my manager, Lucy the cat. Hey, Lucy. Well, today me and Lucy are going to tell you a little story. Now, I don't know about the origins of the story or what culture it comes from. I can't necessarily remember, but I remember reading a bunch of anecdotes, parables, and other assorted short stories that had a moral or some sort of lesson at the end of them. Whether it was Aesop's fables or stories about Nasruddin, some sort of anecdote that touches on Zen Buddhism or whatever it might be. I just loved reading different stories that had moral or some sort of lesson at the end of them. So this story is about the concept of happiness and wealth, what that all entails. So there's a story about this king, wealthiest king in all the land, wealthiest king in all of recorded history at the time. And this king was unhappy, didn't have the ability to be happy with what they had going on in their life. And this king heard about this wise hermit that lived out in the woods. And this wise hermit had the answers to all of mankind's questions. So the king decides to take all of the wealth he could possibly muster up and trade it into the finest jewels and gems and precious artifacts that could take up the size of a small sack about this big. We'll call it about that big. So the king liquidates all this stuff and puts a majority of their wealth into this knapsack and decides to make their way into the woods, disguised though, didn't want anyone to know that they were doing this, sneaks out of the palace and goes into the woods to go confront this mysterious wise hermit. Well, the king with all the wealth goes out into the woods and eventually stumbles upon this rustic, rundown shack of a shelter in the middle of nowhere. And this wise person also, by the way, had a reputation of being incredibly happy and blissful all the time, despite not having anything, and lived out in the woods with nothing but an empty bowl. So the king finally stumbles upon this wise man out in the middle of the woods and says to the wise man, "Wise man, I've heard that you know things beyond the realm of human perception, and you've unlocked the secrets of happiness, and you've unlocked the secrets of being one with the universe. I give you my kingdom's treasures in this sack for the ability to know what it is to be happy. How do I be happy? If you can teach me how to be happy, I will give you all of this wealth. Please help me. I'm a beggar to you." And without second thought, the wise man snatched the sack full of the wealth and jetted off into the woods, fast as possible. Now, the wise man was very, very nimble and lightweight and could maneuver a lot faster than the king, who was very, very, we will say, well-fed and fully nourished. So the king, with a full belly, had trouble keeping up with the nimble wise one. The nimble wise one, though, seemed to be slowing down every once in a while to give the king a little bit of hope, and then would speed up. And then the king would get hope and then lose hope as the wise man would jet off, and right when they got close to catching, would jet off. But the king would not give up. This is all of the king's wealth, and the king was determined to catch this thief. But even the most determined of us can run out of energy, reach exhaustion. And that's exactly what happened to the king. The king could not keep up with this nimble, quick, light on their feet wise man. Eventually the king just kind of collapsed on their knees in exhaustion, broke down emotionally, and starts crying and sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. The wise man noticed that they weren't being chased anymore by the king and turned back and looked around and couldn't see them. So the wise man crept up on the king nice and slow, hid behind a tree and peeked out from behind the tree and saw where the king was sitting on the ground, just completely broken, spirit completely broken. This man had the wealth of the world and had all the power one could ever want and all of the privileges one can ever want, and is now this penniless person sitting in the middle of the woods crying and bawling their eyes out in complete despair and with complete and utter sadness. The wise man stares for a while next to the knapsack, just sits there for a while and just allows some time to pass and let this king really soak in these negative feelings. And then the wise man, at a certain time, after a certain amount of time passes, I'm not sure how much time passed. I'm not an expert on being wise, by the way. I just am telling stories to people on the internet. Thanks for tuning in, by the way. I'm not the best storyteller, but I'm trying. This is not about me. This is about the king and the wise man. And you, the viewer. Anyways, the wise man, at some point, eventually time passes, takes the knapsack and tosses it out to the king. And the king's sitting there sobbing and crying, and then here's this thing hit the ground in front of it. Behold, all the jewels, all the wealth, all of the precious artifacts spewing out of the knapsack on the ground right in front of the king. The king stops sobbing, puts his arms down, starts laughing, starts getting giddy, starts getting excited, starts jumping up and down and dancing with joy to have received their wealth back again. And then the wise man steps out from behind the trees and say, "Well, it looks like I have shown you happiness. You can keep the change." And that was that. And the king learned what real happiness was. And the wise man did not want any more wealth because the wise man knew the poison of what wealth can cause. And we all learned something. I don't know what the moral of this story is. And I don't know if I told the story properly. I tried to do it correctly. Forgive me, anyone who knows the origins of that story. I'm paraphrasing this whole story. You don't know what you got until it's gone, is one of the potential lessons to this story. Another potential lesson is that wealth can be poisonous, so can power. It can just consume you. Another potential lesson to the story is that if you get used to having a dessert with every single dinner, it's no longer dessert. It's no longer a treat. It's something you expect. It's something that is part of the meal. It's part of your dinner all of a sudden. Cake and ice cream is part of your dinner. It's something that happens with dinner. And if you don't get those things, you will experience sadness. And another potential lesson is that sometimes it takes you to lose everything and hit rock bottom for you to really appreciate what you have. And I think a deeper lesson that's a little more all-encompassing is that you can't have an up without a down. You can't have a yes without a no, a to without a fro, a good without a bad. There's a spectrum to everything. It's not just yes or no, or on or off, or black or white, or this or that. There's shades of all this sort of stuff, of happiness, of sadness, of good and bad. And they're like two parts of the same bar, that whole spectrum of yes and no, on and off. So in this particular case, without getting too psychedelic or too out there about it, is that you can't be happy without sadness. You can't know what it is to be happy unless you experience sadness. You can't know what it's like to be sad unless you experience happiness. It's like two sides of the same coin, or like two ends of a polar opposites, like a bar magnet. North and south poles on a magnet, it's the same thing, it's the same piece. So the king has only been on one side of that spectrum the whole entire time, and to lose everything brought him to the other side, and only to get it back to bring him back up again. So maybe this was part of some sort of Buddhist story. I can't really remember anymore. Maybe a Sufi story. Who knows? It's hard to say. I'm not a historian. I'm not a proper religious scholar or philosophy major or anything like that. But I thought I'd share this story with anyone who's willing to listen. Maybe it'll inspire you to view things a little bit differently in your own life. Maybe it won't, I don't know. Take with it what you will. This is your life. At any rate though, you spent some time listening to this guy on his couch tell you some story about something he read somewhere else some other time about some fictional people. And you sat through the whole entire thing. I appreciate that. Thanks very much. That says a lot about your character. I can only hope you got something out of the story tonight, and if you didn't get anything out of it, then I hope that you still got something out of it in the same sense of the story's lesson. Like, you can't have an up without a down, you can't have knowledge without ignorance, right? I mean, so if this story didn't really resonate with you in the right way, at least you know not to watch my stuff anymore, right? I mean, please like and subscribe and follow me for more fun stories. Anyways, folks, thanks for watching this far. I appreciate it very much. I didn't know what this video was going to turn out like tonight, but I hope it did something for someone once again. So if you're new to my channel, please know I'm a chaotic poster here on YouTube. I post a video every single day for the year of 2021, partially as an experiment to track my progress as a content creator, but also to document my life and what's going on, and to share the many facets of my personality and what I have to say and how do I want to express myself to the world. The best way to figure out what kind of content I post is to go visit my playlist section here in my channel. Playlists organized in such a way that divides my videos that I've created this year into different areas or topics of interest, to make it a little easier for you to navigate through my channel and find the content that might pique your interest. And as I said, I post about so many different things, you never know what I'm going to post about from day to day, except for Sundays. Every Sunday I do a daily post, but I also do another circus and flow arts tutorial video, where you can learn things like how to juggle, how to contact juggle, how to juggle clubs, how to spin things on your finger. We call this pediddling. You can do it with anything flat. I love doing it. It's a fun little stupid human trick that you can learn and take with you and do places. It's fun. I want to do a video on, can it pediddle? I can just pediddle weird, strange objects and see if I can actually pediddle it. Could have entertainment value. Could just be me showing off. Either way, I'm probably going to do that in the future, so look out for that one. There's also newer videos on my Circus and Flow Arts Basics link that will teach you how to do different isolations with mini hoops. And you can look forward to some tightrope walking and slack rope walking and wire walking instructional videos in the near future as well. Also, how to manipulate a staff, how to do rope dart, and maybe even a little bit of poi. I was never really good at poi, but I know enough to teach you the basics. And my circus and flow arts tutorials have to do exactly with that, teaching you the very basics, the beginning steps, the fundamentals, and how to get started learning how to do these various circus and flow arts with different props. And that's a wrap, folks. I'd like to thank you all again for watching this stuff. I am ridiculous, I know I'm chaotic, but we're up over 400 subscribers now. That's pretty exciting, and that shows me that I'm doing something right here, and I'm gonna keep trying to do better for all the viewers out there that actually pay attention to watch this stuff. So with all that being said, I leave you with these words that I've been using at the end of all of my videos lately. Remember to never give up. Do your best. Stay true to you and who you are. And as always, folks, be amazing. All you gotta do is just be yourself and try your best and never give up. You can trust me, I'm a stranger. Anyways, I've said too much. Take care, have a good night. Thanks for watching, bye-bye.